Sipho Mantula is a human rights activist and joins me now from Johannesburg. Sipho, great to have you on with us. The 24-hour ceasefire is now underway. Do you have confidence it will actually hold?
Evening, even to your viewers. Remember that even if the UN Security Council is seized with this matter, one will assume that the African Union Peace and Security Council resolution or its engagement on Sunday as this current military impasse started on the second day, we should actually push the African Union intervention more than the UN Security Council. Recall to your viewers that in 2003, they failed on the Darfur genocide. But also, when you look at the case of Sudan, what I call militarization of governance and politics, they don't only require the international bodies, they still require national bodies, they still require your neighboring states, and also the role of the African Union Peace and Security Council, which I still emphasize on, because that's how also you look at the question of Sudan. It's also about the issues around the militarization of the paramilitary groupings that have been there post General Omar al-Bashir removal from power.
Sipho, and what I'm wondering is how critical is it for the ceasefire to hold so that aid groups can access people who need humanitarian assistance? Do you think that that will be possible?
No, definitely. But remember, humanitarian aid in Africa has been used as a weapon. I use the word weaponization of humanitarian aid. Do you remember the case in point of the northern part of Ethiopia? But also when we talk of access to humanitarian aid and this casualties, the images that we are seeing now on our TV screens, it is so pathetic that we know that women and children are the victims of these conflicts of what I call military appetite of power when they don't know the hour of governance. So it is important that we emphasize on the issue of access to humanitarian aid. But if you look, the doctrine of responsibility to protect also is being undermined. That takes us back, if you can recall to your viewers, also the Libya situation in 2011, how also humanitarian aid was undermined by the international community. So it is important that we look at the issues of humanitarian support to the ordinary people of Sudan. More so, you know that the students in Khartoum University have been stranded for almost 4 days now.
Yeah, and this is something that we really haven't seen in Khartoum before. If this fighting continues and people are stranded, can't get out of their homes, what is the main concern?
You know, the main concern also is for people not to have access to basic commodities. And also, secondly, it is to say, is it a proxy war that is being fought in the streets of Khartoum? Is it also around institutions of government that have been occupied by both sides that will make that either this war, there's a winning force, there's a losing force? And for the ordinary people to be subjected to this military proxy war between the two generals, it is so pathetic and sad. Also for the silence, the deafening silence of the African Union, even if earlier I've said that we need to put trust on the African Union Peace and Security Council. Coming from South Africa, you will understand that also South Africa, as a member of the Peace and Security Council, have issued their call also to say, let's push for the peaceful dialogue. But how do you have a dialogue with the military that has been having appetite of power since 2019? And also, where do we put the role of civilians? It has also been a protest from the workers, from the academics in that country, that we need civilian rule more than military rule, because Africa has been under military rule for too long. And this issue of even not giving community freedom of movement, it is also a gross human rights violations in terms of the African Charter.
If these two warring sides can't come to agreement and we see continued fighting, how much danger is there of further fracturing within Sudan and even possibly descending into civil war?
No, definitely. And I think that's a good point you are raising, because remember that if you have a crisis in the North Sudan, you'll also have a crisis in the Eastern Sudan of Darfur. You'll also have a crisis in the South Sudan. So the smoking of the peace pipe by the two generals, it's very important for them to understand the geopolitics of their neighboring countries, Egypt, Ethiopia, and also to look at the question that I raised of the internal Sudan regions of Darfur, the regions of also the South Sudan, that it is important for the peace pact to come genuinely also and to be a conscious peace pact, because many peace protocols in Africa have been signed with a rush. They have been signed also under duress. They are also being signed in foreign hotels using the European ink. So it is important that whenever people engage on a peaceful process, include civilians also, include the victims and the survivors of this conflict, because in most instances, we rush to go on the media, media TV screens for where they will say there was a peace deal being clinched by the two leaders, but we end up don't have a monitoring evaluation skill. How are we assessing this peace agreement? Hence, I said there was an agreement between two generals in 2022 towards the end of the year, but look at how this impasse also, there was a breach of this military agreement by the two fighting forces. So it is important that they need to understand that the geopolitics, the issues of socio-economic needs of the Sudanese, the North Sudanese, basic access to water, electricity is being affected by this military confrontation.
All right, Sipho Mantula joining us from Johannesburg. Thank you.